This week on the podcast, Matt Brown, the founder and publisher of the ExtraPoints newsletter, joins us to discuss another damning new report on working in sports, a story that sent shockwaves across the industry by putting into words what so many have felt behind the scenes for years.
And there's an implicit trade-off that your entry-level job's going to suck no matter what. But you'll get to a point where you get to do deeply emotionally fulfilling work, cool work, close to this brand and this entity that people have this deep emotional connection to. Your salary won't be very good. So if you do that for 12 years, then you think, actually, like, the implicit promise of that trade-off is not being honored. My job still sucks. More things are being asked of me. I'm losing some benefits. I'm losing some career stability, and I'm becoming disconnected and alienated from the things that make the job attractive. You're going to feel burned out.
After hearing from Matt, we'll give some free advice to ADs on how to keep people from fleeing the business. And a lot of these ideas require little to no money at all.
Let's throw out some crazy ideas. I'm not saying this works. This is what we're trying to do. And some of this may not be possible, but let's think different.
This is the true story of two washed-up sports guys who chased the dream, private flights, championship rings, running sideline to sideline on per diem and adrenaline.
We gave our 20s and our 30s to the industry, pulled off miracles that were never in the job description. In return, low pay, long hours, and we still got cut from the team.
This is about what really happens behind the badge, the burnout, the bad bosses, the dream job that didn't love you back, but also the lifelong friendships, the chaos, the holy shit stories you couldn't make up. And somehow, despite everything, you'd still do parts of it all over again.
This is one for the ones who lived it, loved it, hated it, and still kind of miss it. For everyone who's ever asked, how in the hell did we survive that? We're two former sports insiders with more than 40 years of experience and more than enough scars to make fun of it all.
And just enough trauma to start a podcast instead of going to therapy.
I'm Brandon Barca.
And I'm Andy Boggs.
And this is No Longer Credentialed. We once had access, now we have opinions.
Podcast. You get it.
In a new bombshell report, Athletic Director Yu surveyed thousands of Division I athletics administrators on burnout, exhaustion, and disengagement. And the results are alarming. College sports workers are burning out at unprecedented clips. What the study found: exhaustion and disengagement are both in the high-risk range. Staff repeatedly describe themselves as overworked, undervalued, and underappreciated. Some of the main pain points: inadequate pay that doesn't match workload, lack of respect from leadership, unsustainable hours, and no work-life balance. What was also striking was the number of comments from all levels of college sports. Associate ADs are even feeling it just as much as the lower-level staffers. The report concluded this: Division I athletics is at a crossroads. Administrators are stuck doing more with less while money flows to coaches and athletes and athletic directors. The message from staff is clear: the system undervalues them, and change is needed to stop the exodus.
Joining us this week is Matt Brown, a longtime college sports writer and observer. He's the founder and publisher of the ExtraPoints newsletter, which covers everything happening off the field in college sports. Matt also built the ExtraPoints Library, a research service that organizes data from coach and administrator contracts, department budgets, vendor agreements, and more. We wanted to get his thoughts on a recent piece from athleticdirectoru.com, D1 Administrative Burnout, Exhaustion and Disengagement, Part 2, Qualitative Analysis, a story that sent shockwaves across the industry by putting into words what so many have felt behind the scenes for years. We'll get into what Matt's hearing and where he thinks the current work situation in college sports might be headed. Matt, I bet you weren't expecting this kind of response on social media. It looks like this is quickly becoming a hot-button issue in college sports.
I can tell you I'm going to do a reported story on this next week because so many people reached out to me that I figured, all right, I need to turn on the phone. Let's make this unlicensed therapy and kind of talk through this, because these are a lot of trends that I've certainly seen and known from being on kind of the industry beat for the last 5 years. at being one of the few national reporters that's like, let me talk to the equipment manager. But something has changed. I think COVID is part of the reason. I think the House settlement is part of the reason. I think some existential budget threats to higher education are part of the reason. And I think there's some things going on that really don't have anything to do with money that are pushing a lot of, especially mid-career people, to the breaking point. I would say that even prior to COVID, the sports communication department frontline workers and athletic trainers were under some very specific and high level amounts of stress. And that has continued. But now I also hear from other people that I would describe as frontline workers in an athletic department, meaning that you are not necessarily the person that's crafting the decision, but you are the person who's in charge of executing that decision. And one of the things that I hear a lot across athletic departments is a sense of frustration and alienation from the people that are actually making decisions, right? If you are in a comms shop and your boss is the associate AD of external relations, or is mostly a marketing person who's or more concerned with rev gen, and your de facto boss is a coach, well, those two people might know a lot more about running a 3-4 defense. They might know more about how to hit up rich people for donations, or how to go sell a deal with Comcast. What they don't know is Instagram. What they don't know is how to maybe talk to a college athlete, or some of the core parts of the job. And it's frustrating if you see things dictated to you that are clearly done by folks that don't really have a connection to the blood and guts of what the day-to-day of this job is. And I think that's a frustration in sports. It's a frustration in media. It's a frustration if you're an automotive mechanic or a factory worker or an elementary school teacher or anything, right? Like, you want your boss or your media manager to have some sense of how their decisions impact you. And whether you are in comms, whether you are in facilities or equipment, whether you're in ticketing, that's something I've heard a lot. Like the 4 suits and the 2 coaches that are the president that are making these decisions are not connected to what I'm doing. Then you have that coupled with the hours are insane relative to both comp and career development. Like, I maybe you guys disagree, but I think broadly speaking, if you get into the college sports industry, you recognize that you're not doing this to get rich, and that there are going to be other career opportunities available to you that are going to pay more relative to the amount of time that you put in. And there's an implicit trade-off that your entry-level job's going to suck no matter what. But you'll get to a point where you get to do deeply emotionally fulfilling work, cool work. You get to be around college athletes. You get to be at these events. You get to be close to this brand and this entity that people have this deep emotional connection to. Your salary won't be very good, but your benefits should be pretty good because you're working for a university, especially if you're in a public university system that still gives pensions. There's like 4 jobs in this country that still do it. And sometimes, being in one of those, and that's the trade that people make. So if you do that for 12 years, and then you think, actually, like, the implicit promise of that trade-off is not being honored, my job still sucks, more things are being asked of me, I'm losing some benefits, I'm losing some career stability, and I'm becoming disconnected and alienated from the things that made the job attractive, you're going to feel burned out, and you're going to look to leave. And that's even true at the high level for coaches, where there are people who are making 6 figures, sometimes more, and realize this is not what I signed up for. I don't need to keep doing this.
As you said, with the House settlement, now the spotlight on paying players, what kind of ripple effect do you think this will have on athletic department staff? We're seeing massive cuts at a lot of Power 4 schools on staffing. We're seeing even Group 5 schools that are cutting sports. Yeah. I mean, it feels like the level of stress is at an all-time high in an industry that's always had stress. So it's not like these problems have just appeared, but they feel like they're at an extreme place right now.
I think that's true. And what I would gently say is, I don't think it is just about the House settlement and athletes paying players. I think that is one thing that is happening in conjunction with 5 or 6 other things. And what I would say and I've said this to some of my sources, if you're somebody who's been in this business for a while, and the fact now that your athletic department is directly paying an athlete, if you feel that has changed the dynamic so much that you're losing joy in your job, I would say very gently, I think it is time for you to do something else, because that isn't something that's going to change. And if I'm not going to judge you if you feel that's changed the dynamic, but like, if that's the deal breaker, it's time to look at corporate comps. It's time to go work for a hospital system. It's time to go do another thing. What are the things that I hear from like kind of like service level, frontline worker folks is I'm not mad that we're paying athletes. I'm a little bit mad that I was told for the last decade there was no money to give me a cost of a 2% raise, and then suddenly we found $18 million overnight. The one place where I have heard so far the most tension is actually at mid-major institutions that have opted into house and are going to get some revenue sharing for men's and women's basketball, but the team sucks. They're in a single bid conference. There's 900 people showing up. It's like, listen, it's one thing if we're going to go pay the center for North Carolina $1 million. Everyone gets it. Like I think you'd have to be very old school conservative to look at that and think that that's unfair or wrong. But if you're at Cal State Northridge and you're hoping to finish, I don't know, 8th in the Big West, and you've got 1,000 people coming to your games, and nobody's making any money from this, not even, no one's selling any popcorn, but you opted into the settlement and you're paying your fourth best guy 3 times as much as the academic support specialist who's going to keep him eligible. Yeah, you're going to see some bitterness for that, right? And that complicates the relationship. Like, how am I going to force this guy to go to class or push him to do these other things here when he's making 160 and he's not good and his team is not good and it's not a reflection of revenue that's coming in? That dynamic is going to be true at dozens of schools in college basketball this year, where there's going to be people who are not starting and are not on a trajectory to start making more than the median tenure track professor, and that will cause some tension. But the budget situation you're describing, I think it's really, there's this new pressure, whether it's 2 million, 4 million, or 20 million. Okay, there's this new expense that we got to account for, plus whatever we got to pay our GM, whatever we got to pay Teamworks for the software to accommodate, and then the direct payment solutions. So you have that cost. If you're at an R1 public research university right now, especially if you're in a blue state, now is not the time to ask Central Campus for a handout, because you might have just lost $600 million in research grants. And so everybody on campus is a little bit worried. And if you're not at an R1, if you're at maybe I'm in Chicago, if you're on a regional public school here at the Great Lakes, if you're at Southern Illinois Carbondale or Western Illinois or Kent State, you're screwed because you've been bleeding enrollment for the last decade. It doesn't matter what's happening with athletics. Your job's on the line because the school's broke or might be becoming broke. Most places are losing state public funding, per percentage wise, and they might have enjoyed 10, 12 years ago. Not everyone's dug out of the COVID hole. So I think you have to look at what's happening with House and that emotional change in conjunction with a bunch of headwinds happening to higher education across a bunch of different school types all at the same time. And if we're being honest, it's happening in places where I think executive leadership, both athletics and at the central campus level, is really ill-equipped to handle this kind of change, because if they've been in this industry for 25 years, your formative years of learning how to run a department or run a school were in the late 90s, early 2000s under a completely different economic model, and you're not prepared for this. All this to say, like, if you're at comms right now, if you're an associate AD for development or something, like, I'd be really worried in 2022, like before any of this. This just makes it worse.
To your point, most people in our industry aren't going to complain about paying players. It's long overdue. We've all known that. There might be some ethical conversations about it being amateurism versus professionalism, but the way that colleges were profiting off their backs, the TV contracts coming in, you've got ADs and coaches making these insane salaries. That's not something we would argue on our end. What we would argue, though, is the hundreds of people on the athletic staff have been neglected, the culture's been poor, and it's not being addressed. Is it that athletic directors are simply too busy? Are they too much a product of the system? Or do they just not want to take action?
I think, well, a lot of this really depends on the school, right? And there is, in my professional opinion, I think for a lot of ADs, there is a massive cultural push to focus on the very short term. It is difficult to justify allocating resources, both money or time, in planting flowers that might not grow for 5 or 6 years. Because is your university president going to be there in 5 or 6 years? Probably not. Are you? Probably not. Either if something really good happened or something really bad happened. You have limited political capital with your regents or with your system at large. And you also have to be careful about how much you criticize the system at large. If you're at Northridge or Asheville or Kent State, because what you really want probably is to work at Ohio State, or to work at a larger institution where you can double your check. And you guys know this just as well as I do, but there are senior level jobs at mid majors that really don't pay that well compared to the amount of work. To say nothing, obviously, of the lower level gigs. I'm a reporter. I don't make that much money, but I file thousands of FOIAs to go get like the contracts for everybody. And there are people I look at and like, I make more than this AD. I make more than this SWA, and this person's working a lot more than I am, and I'm working 70 hours a week. So I don't fault anybody for thinking, yeah, I'm at Southern Utah now, but I need to do what I need to do to get to Utah. So there is maybe some willful ignorance, and there's also an understanding of, yeah, I know we have a cultural issue here, but very cynically, if I run all of my SIDs ragged and they all burn out and they go leave to do PR for the power company in 4 or 5 years, I can get new ones. There's an unlimited supply of 24-year-old sports management graduates from Ohio U who will be happy to step into some of these jobs. It's the same, and this is what pro sports has done for a long time. Selling tickets for the White Sox, that job sucks. And they know it sucks. And 2 out of 10 of those people are going to become regional revenue people, and 8 out of 10 are going to wash out, and they're just going to grab 10 more. I don't like it, but there are jobs that operate that way. So I've heard this explained to me from like the junior and senior level that it's a cynical play. But then even if you realize like, hey, all of my trainers are they're drinking 6 nights a week, they're not in a really healthy place, where they're overworked. The AD might not have the capacity to get the $75,000 to hire another trainer. There's some things where it's easy to ask for money, and some things where it's not. So I think you really do need to have a lot of political capital to make the kind of structural changes needed to fight these culture issues, and not everybody has that.
Would you say that we're in a state of crisis in the industry right now?
I think the challenge of saying a crisis, like, do I think we're at a position where the industry could lose a lot of have a lot of brain drain? Yes, especially I think for mid-career people. Is that something that will necessarily show up to fans who are not in this industry? Probably not. I don't think. And some of that, as cynical as this is one, like the entertainment industry, like digital media, like a couple other things that are fun, there's still an oversupply of young people that are willing to do this job, and may be gone in 3, 5, 6 years. You don't have to worry about finding enough people, with the exception, I think, of athletic trainers and officials, where there I think we are in more of a concrete crisis. And as I think we also see with many other industries, like let's say enough people leave and just like the baseline competency of a typical athletic department drops 15%. I don't know if that's enough to make a university president change anything, and everyone just has to get used to crappier stuff. I don't look at that so much as a college sports issue as I do, I think, kind of a systemic issue in this economy. Many of the frustrations and problems and like alarms that are going off in college sports, I don't think are very different in a lot of industries.
Yeah, I spoke with someone in an athletic department in a higher position, and this may be to your point where it's a trend across not just sports, but they told me it's not. Boggs and I, we grew up through the system. We're Gen Xers. We just put our heads down and did our work. We were at places for 10 years, and we just dealt with the low pay and the over hours and part of everything. But the report I'm hearing now is the turnover rate is so alarming to where people aren't staying 2 or 3 or 4 years anymore. It's basically like, I'm staying 6 months or a year, and then I'm getting the hell out. And so it's one thing to replace these positions, but operating as a business at some point, when you're talking about the bottom line and revenue generation, that's got to affect your business.
On some level, it will, particularly if the place where you're seeing that most kind of turnover is in revenue generation. The folks that are doing ticket sales, the folks that are running facilities, the folks that are doing the kind of assistant general manager for Learfield's kind of jobs where there's turnover, there's always been really high. And you're right. There is a cost to training people. There is a cost to hiring people, and we see that with my own business. In a world where the free market worked perfectly efficiently, there would be some kind of introspection when people lost 9, 10, 11% of their revenue to that kind of turnover. I don't think college sports or higher ed has that kind of efficiency. I think that's the kind of thing that could go on for 4 or 5 years before it's meaningfully corrected. And it also depends on who else you're competing with for talent, right? Well, I think a lot about what the dynamics in college sports have a lot of similarities to media, because there used to be a little bit more of a revolving door between the communications roles and your local media. Somebody might work at the local paper for 25 years and then go work for university communications as they kind of retire out. Now there's no newspapers. And across Division One, like more than half of these schools like don't have any regular beat writers, and the people that they do have coming in from TV or radio, they have the same level of attrition too. They're gone in 8 months. They're chasing something else. So that makes it a buyer's market for employers. And you can have a crappier environment and pay people worse because there's not as many places for other people to go. We've heard that in the sales world as well. If you're in a college town or in a market where there's not a lot of competition for pro sports, you can keep people in worse jobs longer. And it's not true for everywhere. Like I think a lot of ADs will tell you, hey, we really struggle to keep trainers because they can go work for the local hospital and not have to and have predictable hours and make $15,000 more. And that becomes very easy. You see this a lot with what we call creatives, people that are doing graphic design, video editing, video production. It's not uncommon for them, from what I've heard, to really kind of end up pursuing like the kind of traveling nurse system. You do this for 9 months, you quit, you go independent, you sell your services right back to the school at a 60% markup, and they still have to do it. And now you have more leverage to tell them where to stick it if they're pushing you too hard. And that just leads to, inefficiency and higher cost for schools. But that's because you're not taking care of the people when you had them under your full employment. I wouldn't be shocked if we just moved to a world where athletic departments just outsource more of the stuff that they can't staff themselves, which just leads to, all right, if we can't keep our own sales guys, that just becomes Playfly's problem.
Are we heading to a place where support staffers are going to unionize to help make the changes that are needed?
Yes, with a few caveats. So one thing that I think is important for everyone to understand is that whether you can form a union and how you form a union is most often informed by your state law. And we have several states, mostly in the Southeast, that are so strongly anti-union that it is either explicitly or functionally illegal for public employees to unionize. If you are struggling in the South Carolina or Clemson athletic department, I think you're out of luck. I think literally you legally won't be able to do it unless you were an employee of like the third-party Clemson Athletic Foundation or Clemson Ventures, and then you might be able to do it. There are other states like here in Illinois or in Michigan that are more permissive. So like I think that's one thing you have to realize. The other thing that is about unionization that's very difficult is that it requires very strong solidarity between individual members of bargaining union. And I helped organize a union when I was at Vox before I was laid off and eventually went independent. And unionization has really swept across a lot of digital media companies and I could tell you, even in a pretty left-leaning, educated, progressive group that everyone kind of hated management, it was difficult to organize that union, which was of less than 200 people, because the economic needs of somebody who's 24 and somebody who's a star reporter are different. And so that is not something that can really be done from the outside. There was nobody from New York. There was no union representative from the Screen Actors Guild or something who could fix that for us. That was the result of difficult conversations at the bar, person to person, or on the phone, person to person. And I think in higher education, whether you're in a graduate student, whether you're an adjunct faculty member, whether you're work in the cafeteria, or whether you work in the sports information department, it's really challenging because these are high turnover roles. And so you need people who are there long enough to serve as like a center of organizing. And then you need to be constantly reorganizing to keep that power. This is, in my personal opinion, as a guy that has been involved in labor and comes from a labor state, a labor home, I think more people in this country generally would benefit from a union. But that's a decision that can't be made by me, and it can't be made by a good-hearted person at the AFL-CIO or anything. That has to come internally, and I think that also is often going to require some local political changes. It's going to be much easier for this to happen if you're in Massachusetts, where actually some athletic staffers in Division II and Division III already are unionized. In Hawaii, there's some athletic support staff are unionized. But in most of this country, the law's not on your side, and if we keep it in the book, like it's going to get worse. This is a White House and an administration that could legitimately get rid of the National Labor Relations Board in 2 years. It's hard to imagine a group that is going to be garner less sympathy from the Trump White House than higher education workers in athletics trying to organize. So I don't disagree with you, but this country is not made that easy.
Obviously, you're deep in the weeds of NIL and all of these things that are going on with the House settlement. Day to day, everything's still changing because of all of just nobody knows the rules. It's the wild, wild west. But one of the interesting things, Ben Portnoy had this in SBJ, and he really was analyzing how the AD role is changing. He had on record a couple of ADs, well-respected ADs, that mentioned the uncertainty of the current climate, them not having the playbook anymore to know how to succeed in this new climate where these departments are now more than ever, $200, $300 million, $500 million corporations and businesses. And these ADs of the past didn't come up through that model from a way where it's business first. So you've got ADs like Danny White from Tennessee, who's thriving off of this right now, obviously. But then you're looking at places like Virginia Tech, who feel like they're 3-4 years behind the model, their AD, and they're just presenting now to the university about how they really need funds to compete. I guess what I'm trying to get at, are ADs really equipped right now to run these businesses?
I understand that tension. And I've come around to the thinking that I don't really know if there is a playbook for the exact kind of professional experience necessary to be an effective AD. And a lot of that, which is a terrible radio answer, really does depend on what kind of school you're in, right? Like you mentioned Danny White, right? It's hard to imagine a family that's more old school, entrenched college athletics than the Whites. Where you've been learning and where your siblings are, and you've been in this business for a very long time. And I would agree. I think Danny's a very effective leader, as was his dad, as are other people there. We have had folks who have come from the business world, immediately come into college athletics, and have been awful. You guys remember Dave Brandon in Michigan? Is this a podcast where I can swear?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was fucking terrible. He alienated absolutely everybody. He became a meme. Texas had one of these before CDC as well. And you can bring in an outsider, and he could be garbage, or she could be garbage. What I do know, like, since I've been doing this, what ADs have been telling me is that the pathway to becoming an athletic director often requires you to either raise the money or touch the money. Meaning that you're over selecting people that came from a background from like external revenue generation, corporate sales, high level philanthropy, or as CFOs, or people that kind of manage the money. And a couple of decades ago, it would typically come from coaches. And before that, when I was maybe starting my career, or before I did, it was more common to bring people in from compliance. And sometimes you'd even have ADs that used to be SIDs. There's a couple of conference commissioners, a couple of people who followed that blueprint. That's not really the case anymore. And so you do kind of have to move around a little bit. And the world is so different at Ohio State or Michigan or Texas or Alabama, $250 million plus department, that you're going to have Korn Ferry people and search firm people and Regents saying there's literally nothing you could do at Ohio University or Louisiana Tech that will prepare you for this. The only way you can be prepared for it is if you're running a business with 1,000 employees, or you're sitting in this department every day. And I don't necessarily know if I agree with that or not. It may be true. I think there's some really talented people, but that are in G5 spots right now that could probably be successful. Beth in Iowa, I think, is doing a really good job, and she came from Ball State, I think, right? But I understand the process. The biggest challenge is how adaptable are you? Because if you spent 20 years learning how to be an AD doing one thing, and now you have to be something very different, the important thing is can you teach yourself to do something different, or surround yourself with people that have that new expertise? And you can have a lot of different professional backgrounds and not have that skill set. I would broadly agree. There is a problem with this industry at large being more reactive rather than proactive. And there's a lot of people who I think will give you innovative ideas and understand where things need to go. But what you hear at the bar at NACDA, and then what you see in the boardroom when it's time to actually, talk to the president and put pen to paper on stuff, those tend to be pretty different things. And what ends up is that it's just easier to keep doing the same thing, even though deep down everyone realizes it's pretty stupid.
We rail on the business side and ADs a ton on this podcast, but I wanted to ask you if you've heard of places that are doing it right, that have good cultures and people love coming to work every day.
It's a good question. And some of that kind of depends on how we define right. Like even a mid-major athletic department's 120 employees, and so people are going to have different experiences. I would say I don't think I've talked to anybody at Boise State, even people who have left Boise State recently, who said they had a bad experience. Like I think most fans either don't know who their AD is or don't like their AD. Boise is one of the few places where I've gone and people are mobbing Jeremiah in the parking lot, and because like they like it, and his senior associates like it, and his coaches like it, and think that what we are doing matters. I've seen examples of schools that are motivated by things other than winning because of an ecclesiastical mission or an institutional mission, where I have sometimes heard people saying more positive things. We kind of talked off air beforehand. I've heard this from staffers at Grand Canyon. I've heard this from people who worked or still work at BYU, where you're not getting paid top dollar, but it's, I like living where I am. I like being in a place where I can bring my whole self to work instead of having to hide the spiritual component of who I am because I'm at Michigan State. I don't want to get sued. And I'm willing to accept some of these trade-offs. I think there are schools that say they do that and in practice definitely don't, or places where that's aspirational. But I don't know if I'm not saying this doesn't happen. I am unaware of like a top 15 size athletic department that wants to compete in championships and everything, where I've heard people say everything about this culture is great. I imagine that's probably true at Citibank or Goldman Sachs or Deloitte or many other like highly competitive places. People don't say that about Amazon, but Amazon's like, fine, we don't care. Because we could find another one of you. Maybe that's what it is to be at Auburn these days. I don't know. It's not. I'll tell people, I want to have empathy with the folks that are involved in all of these decisions. Because if it was easy to fix, if I knew how to do it, I wouldn't be in this job, right? I'd go work for a consulting company, or I'd go be an AD myself. I know these are difficult questions. All I can do is put a microphone in front of people. I don't want to sit here and think like a guy that doesn't have a .edu email address, have figured it out, because I haven't.
I'll close it on this one. Gosh, there must have been 100 responses to your tweet when this report came out by ADU. Someone responded, "Nothing has changed in 20 years. If anything, it's worse now." The stuff we're hearing behind the scenes of the mental health issues, where people are broken, some really life or death stuff of things that are happening to people in this industry. And it's really concerning. It's heartbreaking. People don't feel like they can actually speak up publicly. Obviously, these reports by ADU help to get some visibility. But you know what? They did this. This is part 2 of a report. The first one came out, I think, 2022, and they've got a third one here coming up soon. It's awesome that you're going to be covering this in an upcoming article. And maybe this sounds cynical, and maybe it's because we're just two old guys that worked in the business for a long time. But do we think real change in this industry is even possible? Are we just spinning our wheels at something? I mean, on our end, we're fighting the good fight and we're passionate about it. But is anything ever going to change?
It could. If I could put away my cynicism here for a second, I think you have to think that better things are possible, or else you quit. So I'm inclined to think that for most institutions. But one of the things that really has changed since COVID is, in many ways, ADs and university presidents are not in charge of this world anymore. They have less structural power than really that they ever had, certainly post World War II. The folks that are really pushing more to drive where the college sports industry goes are in Congress. They're judges. To a lesser extent, they're major institutional investors or broadcast companies. But fundamentally, what amateurism is, what rules can be enforced, what budgets are going to look like, who you compete with and where, that is going to be the purview of the federal government in a way that it hasn't been for presidents. Now, the bad news is, I've listened to a lot of congressional hearings and state level hearings about college sports, blue states, red states, the feds, and I've mostly come away thinking oh my God, these people know nothing. And I have had private conversations and with congressional staffs, Republicans and Democrats, to try to educate people about this. And my personal opinion is in Congress specifically, we are not nominating and sending our best in this country. And so I don't really feel very great about many of the people that are going to be leading the charge for college sports. But the flip side is we have not had great luck with the same class of people who are very qualified and have lots of credentials for the last 50 years. So maybe somebody else breaks this in a different way that moves things to the better. I think we could also have a world where something finally breaks and the schools with $29 million budgets finally realize that they can't pretend to be compete for the same stuff as schools with $200 million budgets. And they shift to something more resembling a Division II or Division III model. And I don't want to hold those up as some kind of exemplar of everything good and righteous in college sports, because I also know those jobs sometimes pay $32,000 a year, and there's nothing more righteous about eating food stamps. But I think in other ways that is those schools have a different work-life balance situation than elsewhere. If we don't change anything, it won't get better. But there are avenues to agitate and push for change, and even if that only happens at the local level, I have to hope that the people who are still doing this, and people, just like I have the same naive hope for media, that a better world is possible.
I think this article that you're working on right now is probably going to come out around the same time that this podcast drops. How can people find you?
You can find my stuff on ExtraPoints, which is the newsletter I publish 4 days a week on business, policy, and off-the-field stories in the college sports industry. That's at extrapointsmb.com. I'm Matt Brown on Blue Sky, Matt Brown EP on Twitter.
Sponsored by.
Today's episode of No Longer Credentialed is sponsored by Total Recool, the official memory wipe implant of college athletics. We erase the burnout, the exhaustion, and the unpaid overtime, and replace it with something more useful. Drinking cherry Kool-Aid and convincing yourself it tastes good. Then blasting through the office wall, yelling, "Oh yeah!" while you keep typing emails at midnight. That athletic director survey, gone from your memory. 5 years without a raise, erased from your brain. Missing your kid's birthday because you were on a 10-hour bus ride to Shreveport. That memory has been replaced with a beautiful all-inclusive vacation to the inside of your cubicle. Total Recool was designed by your IT guy in flip-flops and jams, the one who knows as much about Fish, the band, as he does about phishing scams. The IT guy spends his days teaching senior leadership how to turn a Word doc into a PDF, mumbling, right-click, save as. And somewhere in between, he perfected this implant. If you ever start to doubt it, don't worry. You'll hear Quaid screaming in your head, "If I'm not me, then who the hell am I?" That's Total Recool, now available in Shut the F Up Strawberry.
Are you tired of the same old school colors? Ready to jazz up your uniform and helmet game? Look no further. We've Got Colors. We specialize in finding shades you didn't even know existed. Feeling bored with your branding? We'll help you add some delightfully unnecessary line items to your budget. Because who needs essentials when you can have a rainbow of colors? Whether you want electric pineapple or mystical midnight, we've got you covered. Sure, we know you're struggling to pay your bills and ensure your staff is taken care of, but that's not what we're about. We're here to give you 3 fabulous new shades of your existing colors created by experts in a top-secret German lab. Show your recruits and fans that you care about colors. With We've Got Colors, your team will be the talk of the town for all the right and colorful reasons. Call us today and let's make your budget a little brighter. We all know AD should wake up, but most don't have the stones or creativity to actually help their staff. They're too busy obsessing over coaches, wins, and whatever it takes to keep their own job. Meanwhile, the people who keep the machine running are ignored.
It's time to flip that focus. Imagine putting that same energy into your actual employees, the hundreds of staffers inside your very own building. The athletic director you report wasn't just alarming, it's a warning shot. Staff are burned out, disengaged, and walking away. People are leaving right now in droves.
So we're here to help. These are our top ideas to stop the turnover and fix morale in your building. Take notes, ADs. There's going to be a pop quiz after this. So, Barca, number one on my list is something that Dr. Hummel mentioned in his visit with us a while back, and that is to start family committees in your athletic department buildings. They are a must. They're there to help with new hires, finding a place to live, where to put kids in school, family tailgates, and just making families comfortable in new surroundings. Spouses can get to know other spouses. Families can commiserate and celebrate with other families. This is an absolute no-brainer. It could be led by one of your associate ADs or even a spouse of a current employee. Make people feel special when they work in your building, and that means their family too.
I agree, Boggsy. This one's a no-brainer. Need to involve families more and make family a priority. You've seen that with some coaches that have made it a priority that you have worked for. It's just a good reminder that people don't quit jobs, they quit cultures. And there's a really big issue with spouses and partners in the industry and the things that they're going to, and they're often forgotten about. And installing something like this gives an outlet for some change and gives them a voice. They're the ones that are having to be moved all over the country. They're the ones that, their partners are a couple hours late home to dinner every night or miss out on family functions on the weekends or holidays. And so, yeah, let's put this into place.
I worked at a place, smaller Division I school, and we didn't even really mean for it to happen, but it did. I mean, all the families knew each other. Like, I knew my volleyball coach's wife. I knew our volleyball coach's kids. I knew because they were around, and then we would go have drinks afterwards after a volleyball match. Or I knew my basketball staffers. I knew my trainers and their families. I knew my trainers' parents. We would go to their house and have dinner. It was just something that we just did. My wife felt more involved there than at my last place that was at. And it's just because it was just more of a family atmosphere. It's something that we built there, and it's something that we concentrated on and we invited people into, and it makes a huge difference for everybody. I mean, our family is close with a lot of those people to this day. It's one of the better things about working in the business is getting to know those types of people from all different walks of life and parts of the world, and it just needs to be concentrated on by ADs and associate ADs and deputy ADs to make that more of a priority inside their walls of their building.
Again, ADs, head coaches, this is an easy one to do. So let's see some action here.
All right, Barca, what do you got?
All right, here's my first one, Boggsy. Count the hours, cap the hours. You want to know why people's brains are fried? Nobody tracks hours. Start logging it. Then cap it. Nobody, and I mean nobody, should be working 80-hour weeks as the norm. As Dr. Hummel said on an earlier episode, winning isn't actually tied to working more hours. It's actually the opposite. Overwork is counterproductive and damaging. So let's do this. Let's set some department standards. Let's put some action to our talk. 45 to 50 hours worked per week during a season. Let's publish weekly department-wide reports so everyone can see the overload. This is what we did in agency life. The very Monday at the start of every week, everybody in the department, it was a transparent way that we did business. You could see everybody the number of hours they worked last week. High, low, whatever. You know what this does? This means that there will be some accountability. That means we can check on the workload and the mental health of our workers and see, why are they having to work so much? Is it the demands that are coming in throughout the department? Is it that we don't have enough resources? What is it? Seeing these actual hours worked by employees throughout the entire department can be very jarring. And again, it's going to force accountability. Right now, coaches and leadership run people into the ground with no guardrails. This has to end, and I think this is a great way to start.
I would even go even further, Barca. I think that departments should bill. I think every department should bill other departments. And there's a standard rate for in season, But if you want something out of season, it's 2 times the rate or 1.5 times the rate. And, if Sally Joe is playing, an amateur soccer event in July and you want your SID to send out a tweet about it or your social media manager, that's going to cost you 1.5 times your normal rate. And everybody should bill. It'd be a pain in the ass. It would be a pain in the ass to keep track of it. And I do understand that. But strength coaches bill. Academic people bill. Everybody bills. Even if you just do it for 1 year and it's not, you don't actually bill, but you just see that number come in front of you. If you're the AD, it's like, holy smokes. My communications guy in basketball is billing this much during the season. That is alarming. And honestly, where's the money going in college athletics right now? It's going to sports teams. It's not in budgets, not in operational budgets. It's at the football budget. It's the basketball budget. It's the sport budgets. So bill against those. Build your salaries around that. Like maybe your budget is not huge for your salary starting off your base budget, but you bill it, and that's how you get money for those guys. I think, like you said before, it's just information and data that you can use to help your people out, and it's very, very important. And so, listen, we've given administrators a chance to monitor hours forever, and they haven't done it. So guess what? We're going to have to start billing. We're going to start billing you for everything that we do, and then we can evaluate that later on once we get some data.
And again, to your point, even if it's not actual billing, those hours should be tracked throughout an entire
100%.
department, and everybody should input them, and there should be a deadline by the end of every week and actually enforce it.
Yes.
Because I'm telling you, when I would sit in on these meetings on Monday mornings, the first thing I did was look up and down to see every other person in the building, from staff associate to partner, to see what they were billing. And what we would also do in these meetings, these all-staff meetings that we'd have? There was a question from the partners. It was a very safe place to talk about if we needed help, if we were overworked, or if we needed more work. So there was always a question. And the question for the room was, who has too much work on their plate right now? Right. Think about that. How many times does that get asked in meetings that we've been in sports? And then people would actually raise their hand and say, I've got really a lot on my plate this week.
Right.
And then it would be asked, okay, who obviously is still working a lot, but maybe have some capacity this week to lend an extra hand? Then you see hands go up.
Yep.
And those people were still getting paid the same regardless. So it wasn't a matter of if they billed less that week that their paycheck was less. So don't be fooled by that. But it created a culture, an open culture, where we could help each other out in the trenches, and everybody on staff, there was no secret about what was going on. And it just needs to happen.
It shouldn't be a badge of honor that you work 90 hours a week. I'm sorry. Like, it shouldn't be. It doesn't, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Those 90 hours, you could probably work 70 and still get the same amount of work done. So let's just track it and bill it. Let's just add that part in there. And your internal AD, associate AD for internal, that's just one thing that they're doing. They're monitoring how everybody's working. And that would end some of the burnout stuff fast if these ADs are looking at the money that, or basketball coaches are looking at their money like, holy smokes, we gotta do something. Maybe we just have an internal staffer deal with it instead of, the SID having to interrupt dinner on a Saturday night in the off season to do something, frankly, that's stupid, honestly. And so, time to wake up. That's a good way to do it.
And tracking your hours every day, it can seem like a hassle at first. It takes you 5 minutes out of the day. 5 minutes. And you know what I found from it, from my end? Because it was extremely weird at first in agency life. I was like, oh my gosh, I can actually see in front of me for my own benefit where I'm putting my time, where I'm the most efficient, what am I wasting my time on? How do I need to better schedule my work day? So there was some personal benefit too. And so I encourage it. It's not a hassle. There are tools out there that can do this immediately. It's not a heavy lift. It's not complicated. Right. Boggsy, what do you have next?
Okay, this is one that I'm pretty gung-ho about, and I think it involves some creativity, but I think ADs should be more creative with the incentives for their staffers. At Stanford, they built housing for staffers that is close to campus because living in Palo Alto is so dang expensive. At my previous stops, we found housing for interns and graduate assistants by scouring our donor base for rentals that were not being used and offering donor points and other incentives for donors to provide them those places to us rent-free. If you have a restaurant that's owned by a donor, make a trade for a monthly meal for your staffers. This was a big one, Barca. We did this all the time, but playing golf at a discounted rate at golf courses affiliated with your school or a donor. You have a discounted rate for staffers, make a golf league, do whatever. Just use your donor base to make things a little more palatable to the people destroying themselves. And of course, take the donor requirement off of receiving tickets to games and encourage people to attend with their families. That's the dumbest thing
It's the worst
that people do, and it makes no sense. I mean, think about that for a sec. I mean, how many staffers are inside of a building? 200 maybe, 250? So $25 times 200 is, I don't even know the math. It's not a lot.
And don't give me that university bullshit about how this is implemented.
Bullshit.
So we're just going to continue to price gouge our workers that are already underpaid. Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Granted, you pay with it. You pay for it. They tax you, put it in your check. They tax you at the end of the year. That's perfectly fine. Just don't make me pay a donor fee to get tickets so my wife and son can come to a game. That's absolute bullshit. I'll go to my grave on that one, Barca. I mean, that's just stupid. When that happened, we used to get them for free, and then all of a sudden, you need to bring a $25 check down here to get your season tickets. Granted, it's not a lot, but it's still money. It's kind of a slap in the face. Like, holy shit, I'm working this event, and I have to go pay $25-$50 for my tickets? Like, dumb. Stop doing that, athletic departments. It makes no sense. The revenue you get is minimal. Stop doing it.
And university development loves it. You know why? Because athletics can get their percentage up higher of we have 98% of our department that gives back to the university. Well, you know what the first thing I said? When is the university going to give back to its employees, especially on the athletics end when we're dealing with something so drastic that's day in and day out? So it's another one of those things like, let's take from the employee, but let's not invest back in them. And
it's just stupid.
I think perks are the easy way to go. I think of with coaches at times when I wasn't making a great salary, it was like little gift cards that were from sponsors. It was like $50 to go eat at whichever restaurant this is. And I could take a partner or a friend, somebody out, and just, you know what? Let's have a date night or a fun night or whatever.
Right.
Little things like that.
Just little things. It's not
go
hard.
a long way in perks, and just having those. It's like concert tickets coming into town, or just finding extra ways to incentivize people. A lot of times, like you said, through your donor base or through your sponsors.
I worked at a place where we had access to golf course for relatively cheap. We paid like $100 a year, and we could play as much golf as we wanted. We had to pay for cart. But what it also does is it kind of provides some camaraderie in the department. You would meet your volleyball. Hey, let's go play golf. Your volleyball coach or your marketing director or your whoever is there. Like, hey, let's take the afternoon off and go play golf. And, there's nothing going on. We paid $20 for $15 for a cart or whatever. A lot of times I would walk into the pro shop. They're like, oh, here's a cart. Go ahead. It's just stuff like that makes a big, big difference. And you have this base of donors, lots of places that have a lot of money and a lot of those kind of things that you could just negotiate with them. Hey, I'll give you more points if you give us this apartment, or I'll give you more points if you give us this restaurant trade, or like just work with the things that you have. Just be creative and help your staffers if they need it with stuff like that. It's just, to me, it's a no-brainer, but it doesn't happen anywhere.
I think even in MLS, I had a good experience with one thing they implemented. They let all of us eat after the team meal in the middle of the day.
Huge.
And that was massive. That was just great. It was like, you know what? If I'm going to work a 14-hour day, I get to, we would wait until all the professional athletes would eat, and then we could all go down there, whether it's get a wrap or a burrito or something off the hot bar, a salad bar, get a drink. It was welcomed. And I've heard of places that do that in the NFL. Then I look also back at gear. And
Big.
hey, if you're the basketball SID, I'm sure you got more travel gear than the rest of us.
Sometimes.
And that
Most of the time, yeah.
and that's fine. But look at little things, and it's varied from places that I've been. I was just like, you don't know how much it means just to get a pair of shoes every year
Yeah.
that the team's
Huge.
wearing. Sometimes places will just give you, here's your polo, maybe here's a winter jacket or something when you're outdoors. But find those little things. Can we do a little bit more? Can we push for a little bit more to reward people? And I don't know, it's not hard. It just takes an actual effort.
It does. It just takes planning. I mean, I had a boss, and he was really good about the gear. He just walked down to the equipment room, like, hey, what are your? He would get our sizes, and he would just walk down there and be like, hey, this is what we got. They got this laying around that's extra, or hey, what size shoe do you wear? And it made a difference. I mean, I still have some of those polos today. There's no logos or anything on them. They're just plain, shirts or whatever. And it's big, and stuff like that doesn't cost a lot. It's just using your brain, man. Just be creative a little bit with the resources that you have, and, make those people feel like they're actually, wanted and valued at work. Because a lot of times they need that pep in their step, because they don't get it in their work because they work so dang much. All right, Barker, are you up?
Here's my next demand to ADs that will be simple to enforce. Listen to your people. Right now, staff don't just feel ignored. Many are afraid to even speak up, and this silence is poison for morale. You want to fix it? Start with this. Create safe ways for people to be heard. Run anonymous third-party surveys. Do quarterly climate checks. Publish top-line results so staffs know leadership isn't burying the bad news. And then actually act on it. I've seen places do surveys, they don't act on it. Also, scrap these useless end of the year 1 to 5 evaluations nobody trusts. Performance reviews, we all love them. Have senior leaders that hold regular one-on-ones with their people. Build actual mentoring programs internally. Use third-party report cards so staff can grade the department and actually see change happen and publish those results. This message has to be clear. You matter as an employee. Your perspective shapes this department. We will prove it by acting on what you're telling us.
It's just small things, It's just valuing other people. It's the golden rule. Treat people like you'd like to be treated, and you would be shocked on how little that happens in college athletic departments. And again, it just doesn't take much. The things at the end of the year, the evaluations, just so stupid. They're just dumb. And I get why you have to do it. HR needs it, to fill out their whatever they fill out. But it's just so dumb. My boss never got evaluated. I never got a chance to evaluate my boss. Like, no one cared enough. Like, I wanted to evaluate my boss and let my senior leadership know how great of a job or how shitty of a job they were doing.
The only way you do that is if you go to HR and make a complaint. And guess what?
Right.
You can't trust HR.
No, and it shouldn't be adversarial unless it's you're being abused or
Exactly.
whatever. But it shouldn't be adversarial. It should just be out there in the open. These are this guy's strengths. These are his weaknesses. How can we help this weakness? How can we accentuate this guy's strengths? I mean, it doesn't need to be secret. It just needs to be out there so people know. And people put their head in the sand. They don't want to know.
And then these evaluations happen at the end of the year. It's just always so negative because a lot of times these places aren't having regular one-on-one convos with their staff. And so all of this is built up for the entire year, and a lot of things haven't been communicated directly to your workers, whether it's high performance or things that need to be improved. And so when it all happens at once, and then you're finding you're just getting that standard cost of living, like 2% salary boost, it just sets up, just the whole process is just negative in nature.
So negative.
And let's find a way to do new things about that. And I've got some other ideas in another topic.
It's kind of maddening, and I don't know if it's just a power grab or they just don't think about it, but you have to do it so you can communicate with your staffers like you care about what they say. At the end of the day, that's just what you want, like just to be listened to. You may be wrong, but at least people are listening, and a lot of places they don't even listen.
And I've been at places that do surveys, and that's half the battle. And to me, this is also like a half-assed way of doing things.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening is, oh, great, here's another survey that we're taking.
Yeah.
And there's going to be no action.
No action.
There has to be action. The process isn't just like we did the survey. And also, this survey needs to be done by a third party.
Mm-hmm.
People on your staff, they're not going to trust sending stuff back directly to the athletic department. That's a fact.
Yep.
I mean, people right now are scared to speak up about anything. You think they're going to spill their beans and tell you the truth of something that's going directly to HR? So that's another extremely important part of this.
Call in the Bobs. You just have to follow through with things, like if you're going to do something, follow through with it. At the end of the day, when you don't follow through, then people don't trust you. So it's real easy to lose trust when you know the things that you're doing don't really matter. You're not being listened to. So just follow through, ADs. Follow through. All right, my next one is a fun one, and there's some companies out there that do this, and there's rumors, I don't know this for sure, about athletic departments that have done it, but give sabbaticals to employees after a certain amount of time, whether that's it's 5 years of employment or 3 years of employment or 10 years, whatever it is. Give them like a paid month off or paid 8 weeks off where they cannot open their email. They lose access to everything. They can't get in the building. They can't use their email. They can't get on social media. Everything is locked out for that month. And just let them refresh. And when they come back to work, they're chomping at the bit, ready to come back. And I think it makes a big difference. It could make a big difference for people just having a break, and administrators knowing that you're getting a break, or ADs getting a break. Heck, ADs need breaks more than anything. They shouldn't have to go to dang Scotland or rural Mexico where there's no service like Mark Cohen was talking about, where you go when you can't have service. You should just be like, this month I'm off. And the athletic department should do this too in the summer. No tweets, no Instagram, no nothing.
No emails, no Slack messages.
No emails. Like, we're off. Or we'll work from 8 to noon. We'll respond to emails. But after that, we're done. We're not doing it anymore. And just do it. You're going to save your employees. They're going to respect you more. They're going to respect the fact that you know how hard they work. And they know that, if I work here long enough, I'm going to get some time off to do whatever I want. That needs to happen. Sabbaticals are big. I think they're big for everybody. I mean, if I lived in a perfect world in a vacuum, my wife's a teacher. She would get a sabbatical every 5 to 6 years for a semester. She's not working, just to recharge the batteries. Athletic people need it more than anybody.
We've got to stop treating staff like machines and start treating them like human beings, which we've discussed on previous episodes. Hey, look, long sabbaticals, perfect. But let's get in the weeds here on the day-to-day. Let's try decompression weeks and slow periods. Let's shut it down some in June. Let's shut it down around the holidays where we can. Let's rotate shifts for some of our staffs and give them actual off times or downtime during busy weeks.
Yes.
So
big.
Little things like so people aren't missing family dinners regularly. That's just one thing.
Yes.
Let's actually cap or put limits on endless nights and weekends on how many times that can occur in 1 month.
Right.
Let's normalize PTO. Let's make counseling accessible.
Yes.
Let's throw out some crazy ideas. I'm not saying this works. This is what we're trying to do. And some of this may not be possible, but let's think different.
Yeah.
You
have to. You have to.
There's a company out there that's testing 4-day work weeks, and their productivity went up 40%.
Right.
Bold experiments in work can be designed to help your culture. College athletics just needs some creativity with this.
Yeah. If a coach can be creative about X's and O's on the football field and run trick plays and run unique offenses in basketball and hit and run in baseball, and why can't athletic departments do that? Just use your brain. Be creative. You take a chance. I think employees would probably like it if you took some chances on staff culture. Do you remember they had a suggestion box once in the break room?
Oh yeah, I
How
do.
how many of those did you see those? Were
I
you involved in that?
I know. I saw the box.
I wasn't either. I saw the box, and I may have put something in there, and obviously nothing ever got done. But it's just stuff like that, dude. Just follow through on it. Take a chance. So maybe it won't work. Big deal. At least you tried. Like, be creative. Use your brain. You know, read business books. Listen to guys like Fitzy. Use your brain. Get outside there a little bit. Be a leader.
We need real fixes, and that's why
We do.
we're talking about this in this segment, not lip service.
Right.
Okay. And protecting health right now is extremely important. And I've said it before, it doesn't need to be a Friday afternoon and we bring out the masseuse to give everybody a back rub. That doesn't fix or solve everything. I think what we're hearing time and time again is people are overworked. So what are we actually going to do about it?
It's not much is going on right now, and it just needs to change. And if not, I don't know what's going to happen to the business. Maybe it'll just be 22 to 25-year-olds in every position because they're the only ones that can handle it. People leave, and ADs don't care and presidents don't care, and that's the deal. When you go work in college sports, it's just a shitty culture, and that's just what you live with. You know, you work 6 months to a year and you're out. But it can be better. It can be a lot better. I mean, think about, Barca, the resources on a college campus. They are tremendous. Whether it's a business school, an education school, there's all kinds of experts on your campus. Call them. Call them. You know, it's not hard. Pick up the phone, have an email with them, have them come and talk to your staff. Go visit a class. I know ADs don't have a ton of time, and we really hammer ADs on this show. But I think it's getting to the point now. We may not be at crisis level, but we're getting close. And so it's time to start trying new stuff. If you need help, Barca, they can call us. They can email us. They can message us. You come on the show. Come on the show.
Open invitation.
We'll talk to you.
Open invitation.
Talk to any AD that wants to be with us right now. Call us. We'll talk to you. We won't hammer you. We just want what's best for the people in those walls. Because right now you're not getting your best, and they're not getting the best for themselves. And let's change it. Let's change it.
And you know what? We'll help you implement this.
We'll help you. We'll come in. We'll sit down with you and your staff. We'll figure out ways that we can help you. Just call us. We'll do it. There's my pitch, Barca.
I love it. We're waiting.
I mean, it's just we know what we're doing. We know what's going on. We know where the skeletons are buried in an athletic department. We know.
We know what people are saying.
We know what people are saying, and we know that we can help you.
And
give us a call.
Let's just take some positive steps here. What we're throwing out here is a lot of different ways, things that we can implement. Some may not be able to happen overnight, but let's make a real concentrated effort to do something for the better of your employees.
And for the betterment of their department, for everybody. It's better for everybody.
It's going to help It's going to help for the productivity of your own workers.
It's going to help you recruit great people to your department.
It's insane.
When someone can say, "Hey, listen, my AD is awesome. You should see." I mean, we have staff dinners every couple weeks, or there's a family committee that helps. When we moved to town, they were there to help me, like where we should live in town, what kind of house. They got me a realtor. I mean, like, it's not hard, dude. It's not hard. It's just treating people like they want to be treated. Just be human. Let's take all the other shit out. Let's just be humans for once. And we'll help you do that. Call us.
We're not joking around about that either.
We're not joking around.
The reason we're doing this is to bring a light to a lot of the things that go unspoken publicly, and we want to help voice a lot of just the really mental health issues and the things that are going on and bring light to it, because we want change. We're like everybody else. We had a rough time in the industry for 40 years. Sure, there were a lot of great times and moments, but again, enough is enough. we're in this for the betterment of working in sports, specifically in college athletics. And so we're going to continue to speak up about these things. We want to start this conversation. And if you're serious about it, bring us in. We'll speak to your senior leadership. We'll give you the findings, the data, the stats that support it on why transforming the culture of your department is actually a benefit for you.
You know what it'll do, Barca? It's just going to take one AD to do it, and then it's going to spread around everywhere. People are like, well, shit, a good culture got me this person. They've been here for 10 years. They're amazing. They've been promoted. They're like an associate AD now. They started off as a GA or an intern. Now look what they're doing. They're doing these amazing things. They're probably going to do amazing things in this business. And it's all because of we had a culture that we could attract these type of people. That's what you want. You want these people. So call us.
That brings me to my next idea or demand. I'm big on this one. This has to start happening in athletic departments or sports teams in general. Promote and reward from inside.
Yep.
Quit discarding your own staff for the next flashy outside hire. Post all job openings internally with the salary included. Guarantee your people internally get an interview, even across departments. Build progression ladders so everyone knows what it takes to move up. Create a bonus pool so when somebody crushes it, you can reward them immediately and not wait until December for a 2% cost of living adjustment. Research shows replacing an entry-level staffer costs 30 to 50% of their salary, and for senior staff, it can be up to 200%. Promoting from within isn't just good for morale, it's good for business. The message should be, we'd rather keep you than replace you. And I'll go even more on the bonus pool. Let's just throw this out. And this happened to me in agency life. Let's create another bucket on the budget of money. Let's just find it somewhere in the department. It's there. We know it's there, people. We know it's there.
Yeah.
Let's reallocate it and think, what happens if we reward somebody for good work in the middle of a season? Here's what happened to me in agency life. I was stunned. I was blown away. I was 3 or 4 months in, had been really doing a lot of good work on a client, and a partner calls me into their office. And I'm like, I hope I'm doing my job okay right now. I hope I'm not in a principal's office. And they said, you know what? On your next paycheck, I can't remember what it was. We're throwing $2,000 or $3,000 on your next paycheck, in addition as a bonus for the work that you've done on this account. And I remember looking at the partner. I didn't know what to say. I was stunned. I was like, what are you even talking about? Like, I don't understand. This is something that never would have happened in my previous lifetime working in sports. I'm sure I was very emotional, probably almost even in tears on the inside. And I just said, I can't thank you guys enough for doing this. I've never been rewarded in the middle of the year for anything.
Yeah.
And I'm not in it for the rewards, but we talk about building staff morale and rewarding people for good work and doing things like that, not waiting till the end of the year. Man, that could just go a long, long way. I walked out of that meeting with a partner. I'm like, I felt invested into work. It was strategic on their end. Obviously,
Sure.
They're one of the top agencies in the region, and they're notorious for how great their work culture is. I went out of there in my mindset like, I'm working extra hard on these clients because this company believes in me and they're supporting me and they're doing extra things that they had planned for, and they understand, because you know why? They are nurturing their employees to grow them from interns to staff associates, potentially up to senior leaders and even partners. And that's the culture. They don't want to lose their people, so they find clever ways and unique ways and touching ways to reward their employees.
Yeah.
So a lot of that has to go. Think of how many times in sports where people aren't rewarded from inside with promotions. The first people you should be looking at when a new job opens up in a building is people.
Your people.
Yeah. And not just, hey, you know what? If there's an opening in the ticket office and I'm working in comms and I'm showing the ability to be a leader in the building, at least include me in on the interviews for that, whether I end up being qualified or not, whether I get the position or not. It's being transparent. It's letting people know internally first that these jobs are actually open. It's including people in the process. I remember working at times to where I remember a boss told me one time, like, Because I said, I was like, there's been other openings in the buildings and no one's ever approached me about whether or not, I'm interested in moving on up within the department, even though it's not within my office. And I remember my boss told me, well, you're doing such great work here. I wouldn't want to lose you.
Right.
And I'm thinking I'm making 40 grand a year or whatever it is.
That's
And I was
the
just
attitude.
I'm trying to move up, man. Like we need to be like, we need to support our people within. We need to be a champion. And sometimes being a champion doesn't mean being selfish and keeping people in the same exact spot for years.
Right. And I think to another thing too is like it could be so fun. Think about how fun it could be to support someone in your building to do better things and bigger things for themselves that they want to do, or helping with their family, or it's so rewarding and so fun. It just provides for a better atmosphere in the whole building when everybody's working for each other, and it just doesn't happen enough. And ADs are busy, we get it, but it should happen more. Just be transparent with your people that you care about them, and you can do all these little things. It doesn't even cost a lot of money. And one idea that someone came up with once, you may have been gone. When you work out, you have sweaty clothes. You got to take them home. They stink. Whatever, it stinks. One of our coaches like, why don't just put them on a loop, and the equipment people just throw it in the wash with everything else that they're doing with your name on it, and then in the morning they just drop it back off in the locker room. It's like that makes two. How much would that cost? That's nothing for the equipment guy. It's one more loop for the equipment guy to pull out of the dryer, and think about how great that would be. It's just silly stuff like that kind of make a difference. And it doesn't take a lot of money. It just takes you paying attention to people and their needs and what they need inside that building. And it's not hard. Just talk to people and care about other people.
REQ people, we love them. They might not like us after this one. We're saying, go to EQ people to get more gear. Wash our gym clothes.
They're going to hate us.
They're the best people. They're the best people on staff.
Best.
They just take care of everybody.
Everybody. I love them.
I've got a couple more bogs. My list is so long, so let's just get to them.
Okay.
We'll run through them quickly. Pay them like they matter. Again, is this wishful thinking? Probably. But let's stop with the poverty pay. Let's stop with the unpaid internships. Let's stop telling staff to do it for the love of the game while ADs, coaches, and now athletes see their compensation skyrocket. This is one of the number one things, being underpaid. Plenty of successful companies out there have already figured it out. Pay above market and people stay longer and produce more, like we just said. Do actual salary audits. Tie raises to inflation. Publish all the salaries for accountability so everybody knows what everybody's making. Give people a fighting chance to live in the cities they actually work in.
Big.
If your people can't pay rent, they won't stick around, period.
Amen to that, brother.
Just look into it. Look at the model. See what people are actually getting paid. Do an audit.
They found $20 million for house. They can find some money. I hate to be that way, but the precedent has been set. The money is there. You found the money somewhere. Magically came down the chimney one night. You know what I mean? And so it's there. So go find it.
Come down my chimney, please. I don't have any presents.
Right. I know. I need them.
I need some hot cocoa. I'll leave you some cookies.
I need cookies and hot cocoa. That'd be great.
And one more box.
Yeah.
This is a big one. And we hear about this one a lot. I don't know if AD's got the stones to do this, honestly. But we're still going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Check head coach power.
Woo! That's a big one, dude.
This is the big one.
This is the big one.
Coaches own us. They run through us, especially at a power 4, mostly is what I'm talking about. It still happens at other levels as well. I should just say, yeah, coaches do run through us. And they have their own burden and their own stress and all that. But let's take a look at this. Staff burn out because nobody tells coaches no. Let's put some guardrails on them. Maybe let's include some things in the contracts. Let's require staffing impact reviews to measure how a coach's choices affect staff workload, hours, and health. Let's evaluate coaches on culture as well as the wins. Real leadership is sometimes telling a $5 million head coach, no.
Can't do that. And I think it needs to be done on the front end, Barca. I think if you had a built-in culture into your building, like, here's 3 pillars. I hate to sound like corporate or whatever, but here's 3 pillars that we live by in this building. We swear by these 3 things. Treat people like you want to be treated. That's the number 1 for me. Then, whatever the other 2 are. And then you go find a coach that lives by that mantra. You can find them. And you also have another thing, too, is that ADs, and we've talked about this before, they need to take their power back. They need to take their power back. In the contracts, just take it back. Joe Schmo, you don't want to come and work here for what we're offering? Sorry. Okay, we'll go find somebody else. You talk about staffers like us waiting in line. There's 20 times the resumes for a men's basketball coach or a women's basketball coach or a women's soccer coach at a D1 level. So you have the cards, not them. You have the cards. And one of the cards is culture. And when they come in, this is what they live by. This is who they are. And you monitor them and you admonish them when they go away from those 3 pillars that you have. But you have to establish your culture first, whatever it is, your mantras that you live by. Then you just hire a coach and you build upon that. And I don't know many departments that do that. But that ADs need to take their power back. They have they're getting paid like it now. They're not making $200,000 while your coach is making $5 million. Like, you're making 2.8, and your coach is making 4. So you got some power, you got some juice. Use it.
I agree with you 103%. Let me tell you how we approach this. New football coach is coming to town. When that coach was coming off the plane, you know what we wanted to establish? This was back when not a lot of all access stuff was done. Okay, I know times have changed. We just put cameras in their face right off the plane and followed them everywhere. And we didn't give them the opportunity to say no. So we built a culture. This is what it's like in our department. Can you imagine if an AD set the culture of what the overall department is when that coach starts and is actually proactive to say, this is how we do things with our staff here, and our employees and our work. And this is why we believe in it. And this is why we're proud of it. Maybe it's just not thought out a lot. And it's just coaches ended up come in and then
do whatever they want.
Taking power. And, it's like Hulk Hogan used to say, we're going to run wild on you, brother. And I don't blame him, because if I was a head coach, I'd do the same exact thing. You were fighting to get every single penny that you can get to win. Yep. That's your goal. But you know what? An AD should also be thinking about its staff.
Yeah, it's not just that sport and just not that coach. It's everybody. It's the 300 people that's working for you. It's the thousands of donors. It's not just that coach. And take your power back, ADs. You got it now. Just take it. It all has to happen in the hiring process. The last thing you want to be doing is paying a zombie contract, paying somebody not to work. It has to begin before everything happens. But it's big. It needs to happen. Take your power back.
Bottom line, ADs, we'll wrap it up. These are our demands. Some of you are going to say, no way in hell any of this happens. Competitive pay? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But come on. Let's pay people. Let's promote them. Let's protect them. Let's include their families. Let's actually listen and then take action.
Yeah. Let's be creative with our assets and make things better for people inside the building to work there for nothing. So you don't pay them anything, and then you also don't give them any other incentives. So how else are they supposed to feel? Why don't you give them some incentives to make them feel like they're wanted?
The choice is yours. Which AD out there has the guts to lead the change? It's your move now.
Time to wrap it up.
And that's another edition of No Longer Credentialed. Thanks to all of you listening, and if you like it, tell a friend and give it a 5-star rating on your podcast app of choice. Don't forget to check us out on social media at NLC Pod on X, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We'd love to hear from you. Until next week, keep grinding.